What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the show. I'm super pumped to introduce my next guest to you. He's a good friend of mine and an amazing entrepreneur. And he's also a coach, a speaker, and digital marketer with over 18 years of experience. He actually got his start helping recording artists back in the days of Myspace. And that's really where he found his passion of helping other people succeed. Over the years, he's built out his digital agency. He's generated over $3 million in revenue for his clients. And he's had the privilege of working with Fortune 500 companies like the LKQ Corporation, Mercedes-Benz, Greystar, Keller Williams, and Marriott, just to name a few. Recently, he founded the Marketers Elite Mastermind, which is a really cool mastermind where he brings in industry experts to teach high-income skills to really intimate groups of entrepreneurs. And if you want to check that out, head over to themarketerselite.com. But please welcome to the show, Timothy Lee.
Hey man, thanks for having me. I definitely appreciate it. And yeah.
Yeah, dude, definitely appreciate having you on and taking some time out of your day, hopefully to share some of your experience and wisdom with our audience. I like to mention that we're all entrepreneurs. We're all on this journey together. So any experience that we can gain from someone else's journey is always insightful and hopefully inspirational for those that are just getting started. So I really appreciate you being on and sharing your story with us.
Yeah, man, I enjoy sharing my experience and helping other people out that's entrepreneurs. I mean, that's really why I started, helping people and started doing the coaching and started doing the masterminds because, it's really, I guess the biggest thing for me is like when I first started, I had all these struggles and I ran into roadblocks, I guess you could say. And I was like, hey, why don't I help other people avoid having those roadblocks?
For sure.
And, because it took me, over 10 years to hit $1 million in revenue. And if I would have had a coach and had help and had all the stuff that I have now, I would have gotten there a lot faster.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think, coaching and having mentors in your life will shorten that gap and that learning curve. So I love that you're doing that and you're giving back, now that you've got some experience on your belt, you're reaching back and helping those, get to where you are. So, one thing I actually wanted to ask you about was this Marketers Elite Mastermind, because I know you just recently had one in Florida, which, as we were talking about before we jumped on, I'm really bummed I wasn't able to make it. I missed it by a couple of days. But I was wondering if you could share with us, just some of the big takeaways from the speakers that were at that event.
The biggest takeaways from the speakers, I would say, would be, like Blake Newbar was talking about how you need to go for wins. So just kind of, going over the ways of how to get clients. And the biggest thing is that you don't need to focus on the money. You need to focus on the wins. And so, that was really cool. Maxwell Finn was talking about strategies, like with Facebook and stuff like that, and how to use surveys in order to, engage with your audience. And like with Instagram ads, like you can do like yes or no and have people ask a question, have an answer, and have them engage with the ad. So that was a really cool takeaway. And then, Doug Boughton obviously went into his, strategies about like Facebook groups, which I think, it's important as an entrepreneur. I feel like it's great to have a Facebook group. So if you guys don't have a Facebook group, I would highly recommend you create one and build that up and use that to monetize in order to get clients, which is actually something I'm getting ready to work on as a Facebook group. I think you have a group too, don't you, Corey?
Yeah, I do. I just started one a couple months ago, and it is a great way to build a community and really to build a bond with your prospects. And like you say, the more value you can provide to them, then ultimately they'll want to work with you. So it's definitely a great strategy.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing. That's the thing with the masterminds too. Like for me is if you provide a lot of value at the mastermind, as we did, and our speakers provide a lot of value, then you gain authority, and then those people are willing to trust you, and they're willing to give you money because you have that authority and you have that knowledge, and you've given so much value to them that they're willing to to pay you.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, I love that, dude. And I appreciate you sharing those takeaways. And definitely, for anyone listening, if you're interested in attending the next Mastermind Elite, make sure you go check out that website I mentioned. And I'm sure we'll mention it again at the end, and I'll also put it in the show notes. But, I want to go ahead and jump into your story, Tim, and talk about sort of how, you got started back in the day. Like you mentioned, you were helping out recording artists and in the MySpace days. I mean, that's quite a far cry from what you're doing today. I mean, you're still helping people, but in a completely different industry. I'm wondering if you can kind of walk us through that and really tell us, from the beginning, what got you started in this entrepreneurial journey.
Well, when I was 14, I had always had this like drive to do something. And I started my own company and I started helping out recording artists because I was on Myspace and I had these connections, I'd made friends on Myspace and I had saw that, all these recording artists had like these really cool like headers and all this cool stuff back in the day. I always laugh and say I got my start, but now Tom is dead. Because MySpace is dead essentially. So I did that, and I started helping other entrepreneurs, other recording artists. And what made me do that is I was wanting to become a singer myself, and so like that was kind of my passion as a kid. Was like, how it is when you're a kid, you're growing up, and you're like, you have this dream. My dream was to be a recording artist and have stardom and be famous and have all the girls after me and all that kind of stuff. And so then I just kind of like, as I was networking with more people in that industry and trying to build myself up as a recording artist, I wound up meeting all these people in the industry. And then all these people in the industry was like, hey, we need help with this. Can you help us out? You're really good tech. And I was like, yeah, sure. So then I started helping out with like the MySpace stuff and like, generating MySpace plays, which was a fun thing to do. And so, I was helping them, get MySpace plays. So I had like this huge team of people that I had, a bunch of girls that would just, we all get together, we'd jump on a call and we'd start like, going to these pages and like these recording artist pages and driving a ton of traffic to it, posting in groups and, really just trying to drive traffic. And so then so that got me into, the MySpace thing. And then I was like, hey, I can do this exact same thing on Facebook. And, Facebook came out. It was mainly for college kids. I still remember the day when MySpace, Facebook came out. You had to be a member of a college to technically join. And then when Facebook started their advertising platform, I kind of, started playing around with it, started fiddling with ads, and just really learned ads. And I had done a lot with trial and error myself, with spending money on myself, and then started working with recording artists because I was already in that industry. So, I was getting networked, and somebody would be like, hey, can you help me with run ads? And that led me to be able to work with like Akon and Jesse McCartney and Demi Lovato, the Jonas Brothers. And so then that led me to be able to work with, all of them. And it also led me on stage at the Teen Choice Awards, which was a funny story. So that's kind of how I got it. And so then I just dove into, Facebook ads and, took a couple of courses along the way. I would say after I already knew ads, I took, courses because I was like, I wonder what everybody else is doing. And yeah, so that's kind of my story. And then I wound up starting my agency and got tired of being nickel and dimed because I was getting nickel and dimed all the time. People didn't want to pay me but $500 a month. And I was like, oh, sure, it's $500 a month, But the biggest thing for me is I realized that I couldn't scale my agency at $500 a month. And so, if you're charging $500 a month for a client for Facebook ads, then you're not going to be able to scale. You're not going to be able to be, you're not going to be able to be pulling in like, $70,000 a month, which is where, I'm about to be at, because, it would take a lot of clients to get to that. And it would take a big team to get to that. So I realized that if I started showing ROI, then I would be able to get to where I wanted to be a lot faster. So now I'm not doing retainers that are $500 a month. Now I'm doing retainers that are $3,000 and plus. And then you're able to get there a lot faster and able to scale your agency and be able to make $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 a month and so forth.
Yeah, I love that, man. I love that story. And you covered a lot of points, which I can really relate to. One being that how you started, you said you wanted to be a recording artist and be famous and be up on stage, and have that, right. And I totally relate to that, man. When I got started, I just wanted to be a, rock star. I was a drummer from an early age, and I actually went to college to study music. And like my whole dream was I want to be up on stage, in some massive rock band, just like rocking out the faces of, hundreds of thousands of people. And in school, I realized like I don't care at all about music theory or about history or any of that stuff. I just want to play. But anyways, it's funny to see how that transitioned into you helping other people sort of grow, their bands and their labels and that whole deal. And it's really neat how you really had an eye for like you say, when you first heard Facebook come out and you saw the advertising platform come out, like you were immediately drawn to it. How can I use this? How can I leverage this to grow a business or to traffic, for an artist? And I remember those days too, man. Like I remember when Facebook came out, I had my college, email address, which allowed me to join. And I was on there and I'm just thinking like, this is weird, like it's weird how we can connect with people. Like it's cool, but I didn't get it. And I love that you had the foresight to like, okay, I can use this platform and I can leverage what it's doing to grow not only my business, but also my clients' businesses. So that's really neat that you were able to see that. I'm wondering like, I guess in a way, advertising has just kind of always been in you. Like you said, as a young kid, like you just were selling stuff, you were trying to make it. So I guess that's pretty neat for me to see that from you as a young kid, seeing the opportunities that were out there.
Yeah, I remember, I think a lot of it had to do with it. I've always just been into computers. Like I've always been drawn to computers. And I mean, and the thing is I actually homeschooled too. So, my mom yanked me out of school and I'll go into that too. Like I'm not even a graduate. So I'm not even a high school graduate. I don't have a GED. I don't have any of that. And, I didn't go to college. I know a lot of people have gone to college and, to be honest with you, I personally think college is a waste of money. So, because you could be successful and have a life without going to college and spending all that money on education that in my personal opinion is outdated. So, and it's kind of funny too, that I wanted to be famous and all of that, because now, in speaking on stage, because now I am on stage, but in a different manner. So
No, that's cool, man. And actually, thank you for sharing that, because, it is not a prerequisite to being successful, to having that college degree or really any degree for that matter. And I appreciate that you shared that, because I think a lot of people listening, that is a big barrier to entry, just to moving forward for a lot of people. They think they have to go to college. They have to follow this, prescribed sort of life that, that most of society says we have to do. But the reality is it's not required. It really depends on what you want to do. But, if you want to build your own business, there is no degree in any college in any country that will prepare you for what is actually going to be required to build your business. The only way to do it is to get in and to start taking action and learning from your mistakes,
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is I definitely learned from my mistakes. I mean, I think the funny thing is though for me is I made some of my mistakes again multiple times. So I think I didn't really completely learn from them as much as I should have. And then finally I just, I had a significant other of mine that kind of kicked me in the ass and was like, come on, you gotta stop making mistakes. You gotta stop fucking up. And, you gotta actually, do this. And once you get that drive and you get that push, it's just like, not only that, but like live events is another big thing for me. Like after, when we came back from Funnel Hacking Live, I mean, for me, it just lit a fire under my ass. I mean, because, going back to, Funnel Hacking Live, it was actually funny too, because about a year ago, a little over a year ago, I wound up, I was only making like $10,000-$15,000 a month. And I wound up falling flat on my ass, wound up not being able to pay my rent, had to move out of the place I was living in, and basically rebuild myself. And here we are, almost 2 years later, and I'm doing over $60,000 a month. And so, I mean, and that just goes to show you like, what you can do if you set your mind to something and you really bust your ass. I mean, you can really go places like, and you're not going to learn that from going to college. I mean, you got to learn that from jumping into things and getting your hands dirty, so to speak.
I love that, man. I love that. And I totally agree. What are some tips maybe that you could give like a new entrepreneur or somebody who's thinking about starting a business, like how they can get over the fear of just getting started, because a lot of people, that's really what holds them back, is they're afraid to fail.
I think the biggest thing for me that I would recommend is don't be afraid to fail, because no matter what, you're going to fail, fail eventually. Like that's just part of it. Like you're going to have your failures, you're going to have your ups and your downs. I mean, you just have to really, you just really have to realize that you're going to fail. And if you do fail, it's okay, because you can get back up and you can pick yourself back up and you can keep moving forward. And I think the biggest thing is you can't give up. So I would say don't give up. And it's all in the mind. I mean, at the end of the day, like it's in your mind. So like if you set yourself up, and for me, every morning I get up and I say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this today. And if you write down a list of tasks that you're going to do, you stick to those tasks, you get those tasks done, and you set yourself a goal, then you're going to meet that goal. If you bust your ass and you do everything you can to get there. And another thing is that, touching on that is I would also say hop on Netflix and watch The Secret. That's a really good movie. It goes into like the mindset and like, what you surround yourself with is what you bring to yourself. So like if you have that positive energy and you believe that you can do something, then that stuff is going to come back to you, because it's all mind. It's like it's a really good movie to watch, and they can describe it a hell of a lot better than I can. But it's basically what you bring yourself with, what you surround yourself with is what you bring to yourself, and the energy you put out is the energy you bring in. Is essentially the easiest way to do it. So that's the biggest thing I would say. Like put out good energy. Good energy will come back, and set goals and write down a list of stuff that you want to do and do it. And write down anything that holds you back, and get over those obstacles.
I love it, man. I love it. That's really good advice. And I definitely agree. The Secret is a great movie. And if you're having trouble with that mindset piece, definitely check it out. Because you're right. I mean, it's interesting how really when you start to believe in yourself and you believe that you're worthy of having, these things in your life, and that in a way, if you believe that you already have them, right? And instead of like, I want, and instead you change it to I already have, these things start to appear in your life. And it's really powerful how that works. So that's a great piece of advice. And for everyone listening, definitely check out The Secret if you haven't done that already. So, well, cool, man. I want to go ahead and transition into another topic with you, which is like this digital landscape. And I know we've been talking about social media a little bit already, but I'm wondering, with everything that's going on, what are some things that are actually exciting you, with the future of digital media?
What's exciting me about the future of digital media is, I'm trying to think, is all of the different, it's going to be interesting to see, and this isn't the exciting part, but it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with Facebook and with Google, with the regulation, with it becoming possibly being regulated. So it's going to be interesting to see what the government does, as far as regulating Facebook, regulating Google, and all of that. The interesting thing other than that, I would say, is TikTok is interesting. I know that that's becoming kind of like a big thing now. I know that they're, do have an advertising platform, which you have to apply for, which I've already done. I also know that it's going to be interesting to see the changes that go on with Facebook, and what's going to happen with Facebook and Snapchat. Snapchat for me is probably going to be the big social media thing that's going to be out there, because social media with Snapchat, which maybe I'm biased because I own stock in Snapchat, but I think Snapchat's getting ready to have a huge breakout when it comes to the ads. I mean, you get really low cost ads. Your cost per click is really low. So it's really going to be a good platform, as well as TikTok, as far as, the changing of, the digital landscape with digital marketing. And I'm really excited to dig into YouTube ads myself as well. So, I'm going to dig into YouTube ads, which Billie Jean is actually going to be teaching at my mastermind. And so I'm really excited to dig into that from a digital standpoint.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I totally agree. Like with the whole regulations coming forward, I mean, it's inevitable. It's just a growing pain. It's something that has to happen at some point. The internet still is an infant in terms of like what it is and what it's becoming. So, as we all know, like governments are very slow to adapt to change. So that whole regulation piece is going to be interesting. And I think it's also going to disrupt a lot of some of the advertisers that are out there that are completely leveraged into one platform or another. And I love that you mentioned a bunch of different platforms, because I think that, having your cards sort of spread out into multiple different pots is important. You don't want to rely just on one. Because if something happens on one, your business is kind of screwed. So talking about Snapchat and TikTok, it's funny you bring up TikTok because it's something that I've recently been looking into as well. I see it as a really, a growing platform, and it looks like, it's getting a lot of attention from the younger generation. But for those that don't know, can you just kind of describe a little bit of like what TikTok is, and also real quickly touch on like what Snapchat is and sort of what the purposes are for those platforms?
Well, Snapchat is a platform where you can take pictures, selfies, and basically they disappear. So it's a disappearing selfies. And it's a huge platform that a lot of people have been, using, and, just sending pictures back and forth, and, emojis and all kinds of different stuff. And like you have screens and filters and all kinds of cool things. It's big, it's really big with millennials, and I know the younger crowd is really big with it as well. And I even know some, older people are on it. I know Doug was just with me for the past week, and I saw him even on Snapchat as well. So, I mean, and then as far as TikTok is basically just a platform where you can upload, videos, short videos, and, and just, and it goes, a lot of stuff will go viral in there. And, just to make people's day. And you can kind of go on TikTok and look at what's trending and see all kinds of different funny videos, or like, whatever the trending, hashtags are. And, it's just, short videos essentially. And, it's kind of like Snapchat, but, video driven at the end of the day.
Right on. Yeah. And I think, just for anyone listening, like the idea here really is to not pigeonhole yourself to just Facebook if you're thinking about advertising online, or, just Google or just Instagram. Like there are lots of places out there where you can start to put your message out and reach new audiences. And keeping your finger like on that pulse of the up and coming platforms is really important. If you're wanting to grow a business online. So I just kind of wanted to dive into a little bit those a little deeper. And, I got to ask, man, it's a selfish question, but you being the Facebook expert, what is like the one Facebook hack that you would recommend for anybody wanting to get started with Facebook advertising?
The biggest thing for Facebook ads, I would say, is have a damn Facebook pixel.
Have the pixel. That's true, man. It's so funny. I have a Chrome extension on my browser, which tells me if there's a pixel on the page. There are so many websites and funnels out there that nobody has pixels on. It's like,
yep,
they're just throwing away that traffic, that data. It's insane.
It's actually funny too, now that we're talking about that, because I actually reached out to Spirit Airlines. I reached out to Ted Christie, the CEO of Spirit Airlines, and they didn't even have a pixel. And I was able to get, after emails and phone calls and stuff back and forth with them, they wound up installing a pixel, and I didn't get hired. And I was kind of pissed about it a little bit.
Yeah, it's true, man. That pixel is a crucial piece of technology. And again, if nobody knows what that is, it's just a little piece of code that you add to your website, which tracks the visitors that come to your website so that you can remarket to them in the future. So if you guys have a website, or if you're building a website, make that a priority to get your Facebook pixel on there. And if you need help with that, just reach out to Tim. I'm sure he can help you out with that. So yeah, that's funny, man. Well, cool. Well, let's go ahead and transition one more time. I got one more topic I want to talk about with you, Tim, which is that work-life balance, the elusive balance between building a business, living a life we enjoy. Obviously, you've got like 1,000 projects that you're managing right now, as well as, I'm sure you're living a life of happiness and doing something that you enjoy. So what are some strategies that you use to manage it all?
The biggest thing for me is having VAs. And if for those who don't know what that is, it's virtual assistants. VAs for me have been like a big, big lifesaver, because it allows me to, kind of disconnect, so to speak, but not completely disconnect. And so that's the biggest thing for me. And obviously, VAs can also be considered, subcontractors or employees, or, even if you bring in employees or whatever. So the biggest thing for me was bringing in VAs to kind of like offload some of the stuff that I have, the repetitive tasks that I'm doing. So that way it gives me more time to do other stuff. I definitely do, live, a pretty good life, and not to kind of boast or anything, but I mean, me and Doug and a couple others went out and, had a $400 dinner at a steakhouse. So, that's kind of part of it. I mean, you get to enjoy the fun things, and, we went bowling and playing pool and, playing arcades and just, having a good time. And and I get to travel a lot too, which is, a lot of fun. And, and in order to do that, you've got to be able to have a good team that you can rely on, and a good, good team in place, whether that's VAs or employees or whatever the case might be. So that would be, for me, that's actually what helped me grow my business a lot and scale my business, was bringing on that right team. And to be honest with you, if you don't have that right team, it can really screw you.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I totally agree. Like again, talking back to the whole digital world we live in, like the opportunity to reach out to people in other parts of the country or even other parts of the world where the dollar can go a lot further. It's amazing, like what you can get done for a really inexpensive, like efficiently. It's efficient and it's inexpensive. If you reach out to, like, let's say somebody in Malaysia or somebody in, Thailand or like wherever, we're talking about, countries where, like, again, the dollar can go a lot further. These people live on, a much smaller amount of money. And so for you to say, look, I can pay you $5, $10, $15, whatever, to take some of this work off of my plate. A lot of them are, they're English speakers. They do a really good job, and they can do that work for you to free up that time for you to do other things. So I totally agree. I think virtual assistance is a huge asset that we should be leveraging more in our businesses, especially as entrepreneurs and business owners. Like, we need to leverage that world economy and be able to offload some of that stuff. And really that kind of plays into that whole Pareto principle, the 80-20, like you need to look at the things that you enjoy the most, like 20% of the things that you enjoy the most and that produce the most results for you, right? And only focus on those, and then kind of offload that 80% to your team. So I totally agree with that piece of advice and sort of how you're managing your stuff. And I'm wondering, for people that are interested in doing that, like what is a process maybe that you use to vet a VA before you decide to hire them? Because I know I've been screwed by some in the past, and I'm sure you have too.
To vet VAs, I usually jump on a Skype interview with them, or a Zoom interview, and just ask a bunch of questions. Have a list of questions that you want to ask and a list of things, and, ask them if they've done stuff before, kind of get what their experience is. The thing is, for me, is I have a company I work with, so I go to them and say, hey, I want a VA to do this, this, and this, and this. And then they say, here's your VA, here's a VA, here's a VA. And then jump on a call with the one and find out which one you want to go with. Mm-hmm. And so for me, most of the vetting is already done. It's just making sure that VA is the right fit for my business.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of been my, my process. And then I have a VA, a different VA for each thing. So like I have one that does like outreach, and one that does like, onboarding, and then one that, one that helps out with ads. And then, so, I kind of have my, my team, spread out as far as being able to make sure that, delegating a task to each one that's in, in different, different categories.
That makes a lot of sense. Is that company that you work with? Can you share that resource?
Sure. It's iworker.co, and mention my name and you'll get a discount.
Awesome. There you go. iworker.co. I'm definitely going to check that out. Well, cool, man. Well, I got a couple more questions for you. So, Tim, other than traveling and eating $400 dinners with your buddies, what are some things you do for fun, man?
What I like to do for fun is travel, to be honest. Traveling is what I enjoy, and, hanging out, it's fun to travel the world, see different cities, different cultures. I haven't gotten out of the country as of yet, but I'm going to be soon. And, that's what I find a lot of fun. It's also a lot of fun to, go kayaking. I have a lot of fun doing that. I did it my first time a few weeks ago, flipped the kayak, but, flipped the kayak, lost my glasses, had to go spend $300 on a new pair of glasses. But that's actually a lot of fun too. So like outdoor stuff is fun. Not big into skiing though, even though I live in Colorado. But yeah, and hiking is can be fun, but just a lot of outdoor stuff and traveling.
I love it, man. I love it. I'm a big fan of doing stuff outdoors too. And it's funny to hear you kayaking and talking about flipping over, because I've been in that scenario myself. It's a little unnerving when you're upside down and you're still stuck in the kayak,
Yeah, I didn't get stuck, but I just flipped because the current was really high. And so when we went in, they're like, the current's really high. And I was like, I've never done this before. So I'm like, they're like, oh, no, you'll be fine. Just, just paddle, just keep your paddles going when it, when the current, when you get ready to go over And I was like, all right. So then, I was doing good. I got over like the first one fine, like the second one fine. And then the third one was like really heavy. And I was like, whoop, flipped. I was like, cause you know how it is. If you don't keep going straight and if you get turned, then you get flipped. And so I got turned. And when I got turned, I was like, well, I'm going over.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to go tubing probably next week. And so that's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of rivers here in Colorado.
Yeah.
Going out on the boat's fun too. I didn't mention that. I like going out on the lake and going boating and all that's really fun.
I love it, man. I love it. Colorado is on my list. That's a place I still have yet to come. So when I come through, I'm gonna hit you up, man. You got to show me all the good spots.
Always, man. Doug was just here and we had a lot of fun. So there's always time for fun.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Well, cool, man. Well, Tim, I got one more question for you. So based on your experience and everything that you've done so far in your journey, what is one piece of advice that you would give yourself maybe 5 or 10 years ago?
5 or 10 years ago, what would I give myself for advice? The advice that I would give myself 10 years ago would be stay focused. Don't try to do 20 things at once. And find a mentor and somebody that you relate with that you can work together, work well with to kind of help you along the way.
I love it. I love it. So there you go. Simple, but very insightful advice, man, because it's true. If we stay focused on one thing, we're much more likely to get success in that thing than if we're going in 20 different directions at once. Right. So that's awesome, man. I love it. Well, Tim, again, thank you so much for being here. It's been a blast. Tell everybody where they can find you and what you got going on in the world.
Well, you can find me on Facebook at Timothy Lee Live, I believe it is. I believe it's facebook.com/Timothy Live. Or you could go to blockagency.com. That's spelled BLOK agency. And you can also find me at themarketerselite.com.
I love it. There you guys have it. Make sure you go reach out to Tim if you need help with your advertising or just social media in general. And obviously, if you're interested in joining that mastermind that he's got going on, go check that out because there are some A players there that are teaching amazing skill sets in all kinds of different arenas of marketing and advertising online. So, Tim, thanks again, man. I really appreciate having you on the show, and I guess we'll catch you in the next one.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I greatly appreciate it, and hopefully you guys learned a little bit from this podcast.